Well, it is another beautiful morning, minus the pain, the tears, and all the sadness we do have from saying goodbye to one of our very own. We will have a proper tribute for Gloria Bossman as the week goes and as we prepare to send her off to her final resting place. We will speak to some of her friends, some of the people who are closest to her, and of course, some of the people who've worked with her in this beautiful industry that has given us so many great memories. From my side, Kamalamgo Trusenz, you could have been anywhere between 9 and 12, but you chose to be with us. Thank you. Let's get into the moments in current affairs. Kicking it off with Old Mutual's deep pockets facilitate a 1.5 billion rand buyback, share buyback, and a new bank next year. Old Mutual has passed through the first regulatory hurdle, having received permission to obtain a banking license. Williamson says Old Mutual is weeks away from submitting an application to the South African Reserve Bank. We then have to test our bank infrastructure in the payment system test environment. Then we can apply for a conditional or a condonation, from the Reserve Bank before we can finally launch. Although no final decision has been made, Williamson confirmed that the name Old Mutual Bank is off the table due to the previous use of the word mutual. Old Mutual Chief Executive Officer Ian Williamson was coy on the load shedding costs. However, he added the knock-on effects of rolling blackouts include the impact on the market in terms of foreign investor confidence or lack thereof, and economic growth as business affected by load shedding are forced to shut down, reducing employment numbers further. A healthy capital ratio of 1.9 times the required number means that shareholders will benefit from a significant buyback to the value of 1.5 billion rand. The bottom line numbers looked very healthy indeed, with adjusted headline earnings of 34% to 6.37 billion, gross written premiums up to 12% to 22.3 billion, and a final dividend declaration of 51 cents per share, taking the full year dividend to 76%, or that's 13% up on last year. Old Mutual making moves. A doctor shot during a robbery gets the nod to sue the colleague for amputation of his leg. A medical doctor who was shot during a robbery in practice in Standerton in Mpumalanga and had one of his legs amputated will now be able to prove the damages he had suffered. He had the go-ahead after one of the doctors liable for the amputation lost his appeal. Dr. Abdus Patel instituted an 11.4 million rand claim against his colleagues for the amputation of his leg. He said if Dr. Abu Bakr Yusuf and Dr. Frederick Lowe had acted with haste after he was shot, he would have had his leg today. The Gauteng High Court in Pretoria earlier found Patel's colleagues could not be blamed and turned down the claim. Patel subsequently appealed to the full bench, which found that Lowe should be held accountable. Lowe turned the Supreme Court of Appeal, which turned down his appeal. Patel was accosted by two men at his home surgery on August 7th, 2009, during which he was robbed and shot in the left eye. A bullet shattered his femur into two pieces, transacted at the artery, and injured a vein. Paramedics were called to his house and he was taken to Standerton Hospital trauma unit. But while the paramedics were treating him at his house, Yusuf heard of the shooting and was about to enter the mosque. He rushed to Patel's house and phoned the Standerton Hospital to alert him he was on the way. Lowe was on a call at the time and promised to tend to Patel as soon as he was done with an appendectomy that was scheduled for later. When Patel arrived at the hospital, Lowe was not yet there, and Yusuf, who followed his friend to the hospital in the car, phoned around to try to find another doctor who was recommended by Patel. But while on the phone, Lowe walked in and examined Patel. He found there was a possibility of vascular injury, which could not be treated at the Standerton Hospital. Lowe sent Patel for x-rays and then attended to the scheduled appendectomy for which he was running late. Lowe decided to transfer Patel to Pretoria East Hospital and phoned another colleague, an orthopedic expert, there to take care of Patel when he arrived. Apparently, the Pretoria East Hospital was also not equipped to deal with this type of injury. Patel was meanwhile rushed by ambulance to this hospital. 2 hours later, he arrived there. Then he had to be transported to Pretoria Heart Hospital. By this time, the lack of blood and oxygen in his leg left it having to be amputated. Patel said his colleagues were negligent as they should have transferred him to a facility with vascular factory facilities and should have ordered his transfer to Pretoria via helicopter. Suing his colleagues because he feels like he would have still had his leg had they acted in a way that was not negligent. 28 minutes after 9, we still continue. Money in and money out. Lottery awards 10 million rand grant for youth awards ceremony, but not a cent was spent on the event. The National Lotteries Commission was awarded a grant of more than 10 million rand to a non-profit entity to stage a South African Youth Awards ceremony. But the company had nothing to do with the event and not a cent was spent on the grant. Now, the 10.1 million rand grant allocated to the non-profit company, Life for Impact in the 21st Century, was shared amongst people and the company with no links whatsoever to the awards, according to a special investigations unit last year. At the time of the awards, the company was not compliant with the statutory Department of Social Development reporting requirements as it was dormant. It is currently in the final stages of deregistration with the Companies and Intellectual Property Commission after failing to file annual reports and submit documents. Life for the Impact claimed that at least 3 times the Youth Awards event took place, but failed to present any evidence to substantiate this. Audit firm Nexia SAB&T said in a report detailing its investigation into the grant, this one of several grants investigated by Nexia at the request of the Minister of Trade and Industry Competition, Ibrahim Patel. The awards did take place, but were not organized by the National Youth Development Agency, which told Nexia's investigators that it had covered the entire cost. This was also confirmed by the St. George's Hotel in Irene, Pretoria, where the event was held. The hotel was paid 514,900 rand by Ultimate Travel, the NYDA's travel agent supplier. But Life for Impact did spend the money. SIU advocate Andy Motibi gives the details to Parliament in 2022 about how Life for Impact's grant meant for the youth was shared out with people, companies, and a trust no one was involved with in the event. This has got to stop. These 5 German companies are reviewing Eskom's operations, Scope Out is finally told. International consultants from a consortium of 5 German-based companies are reviewing Eskom's operations. At least some of their recommendations must be implemented before the troubled power utility can access its 254 billion rand bailout, as announced in the 2023 budget speech. It was a direct question. Who are they from the Parliament's public spending watchdog, Scopa? The National Treasury briefed the Standing Commission on Public Accounts about the state-owned entities' bailouts, 329 billion over the past decade, with Eskom the biggest benefactor, while rotational power cuts have left South Africans without electricity for up to 10 hours a day every day. Peters's response was that less than 132-word public statement put out by the International Consortium's leaders, VGBE Energy, on the 7th of March, confirming its appointment for independent assessment of the operational situation. As Eskom, with Donia Power and Heat GmbH, KWS Energy, and RWE Technology, which make up the German consortium. A South African helicopter crew has dramatically plucked a civilian, to safety from the middle of the swollen river in Mozambique's flooded Cabo Delgado province. The man had been stuck there for about 24 hours and seemed to be moments away from being swept off his precarious foothold on the rock in the raging Lurio River when SAAF Sergeant Rapiri was hoisted down from the hovering Oryx helicopter to lift him to safety last Friday. Cabo Delgado has been hit by Cyclone Freddy, which has been devastating Mozambique, Malawi, and Madagascar. The Oryx helicopter was piloted by Major J.A. Augustin, and the aircraft and its crew, who are deployed in Cabo Delgado's province as part of the regional SAMIM, which is South African Development Community Mission in Mozambique, which has been trying to eliminate an Islamic State-affiliated insurgency there since July 2021. A local man trapped on a rock there says he was trying to cross the raging river, which is the Lurio River in Mozambique's flooded Cabo Delgado, but their mission changed dramatically last Friday, as Johan Smith, an independent security expert, told the Daily Maverick. He said Oryx crew were called out at 5:15 p.m. on Friday after the Mi-7 helicopter of the Mozambique Defense was unable to reach the stranded man despite many attempts. Make no mistake, turning around the electricity production is the most ambitious and far-reaching activity any South African leader has undertaken for a long time. Congratulations on your appointment, Minister of Electricity. Your appointment represents the last hope of the ANC who will turn around the generation on transmission of electricity, which has been going backwards at a substantial rate since the utility was converted into a contract management agency for the politically connected. You will know that the utility is bleeding at the economy, and that at the rate of 1.5 billion a day. So you have already presided over 15 billion in losses since you took office, and that is the conservative short-term estimate. To turn this around, you will have to accomplish what two senior ANC figures, the Minister of Mineral Energy Resources, Gwede Mantashe, and the Minister of Public Enterprises, Pravin Gordhan, have failed to do for several years. And you will have to do so with both of them still in cabinet and still believing they have ultimate responsibility for Eskom. If you do dwell for a moment on why any of these senior ministers have failed, despite repeatedly stating that sorting out Eskom is their number one priority, to do so, you must tune out of the news over Andre Tareta's departure. Your cabinet colleagues are hawking the story that he is an enemy of the people who is trying to discredit the government. It would do you well to stand above such playground politics and actually think deeply about the analysis of the problem. Tareta said corruption at Eskom was like a cancer that was unsuccessfully treated. So it is metastasized and now grown throughout the body of the organization, everywhere there is resistance, and implementing controls of conducting investigations to implementing disciplinary action. You need to sit down with some leaders and get to the bottom of it. This is a open letter by Greg Mills and Ray Hartley from the Brenthurst Foundation, who are analyzing the woes surrounding Eskom as well as the heavy duty at hand for the new minister in the presidency of electricity. And this is definitely something that we need to follow up on, as we are being affected on a daily basis by these rolling blackouts. Action SA member of council Nkele Molapo on Monday broke her silence after the termination from the party. She says she was shocked and had mixed emotions about the ordeal. I was told of my termination from Action SA last night. After receiving the letter, I contacted my lawyers, who then applied for an urgent application to interdict my vacancy replacement. This went on until she found out that, there's some problems because apparently she was one of 8 rogue members who voted against the coalition and voted in favor of Murunwa Makwarela, who's the former Tshwane mayor, against the better judgment or the decisions taken by the coalition members. Sibongile Mani, the Walter Sisulu University student who was convicted of theft last year after spending over 800,000 rand of money she received from the National New Student Financial Aid Scheme, has been elected as treasurer of the WUSU Convocation Committee. In recent weeks, she took to social media to announce her candidacy for the treasurer's position in Convocation Committee, which raises funds for the institution and the foundation. A total of 79 votes were cast for Mani, while 29 votes were cast for Nontiyo. A statement was released by her campaign manager, Atenko Sifani, who said the journey had not been easy for Mani, especially with the media scrutiny and backlash she received. Sibongile Mani has shown incredible strength and resilience throughout this entire process. She has remained steadfast in her commitment to serving you, the people, and being an independent voice of change. Her unwavering determination is an aspiration not just for women, but for all those who seek to create a better future for themselves and their communities, according to King Atenko Sifani. She was accidentally paid 14 million rand into a 1,400 rand instead of 1,400 rand in June 2017 by Cape Town company IntelliMoney. Money's appeal to be heard on the second term between 11 April and 30th June in the Makhanda High Court. The SIU, or the Special Investigating Unit, is probing a new Public Service Administration Minister, Noxolo Kivit, after Forte University officials implicated her in the institution's qualifications fraud. After matric, Kivit allegedly illegally skipped undergraduate studies, registered and obtained an honors degree in administration and master's degree in public administration, and had a non-credit bearing short course certificate with handwritten results, according to an affidavit cited by one of the publications. Disgraced former fourth-year professor Edwin Ijeoma was allegedly at the center of a qualification scam that operated at the university. Now, in August 2022, President Cyril Ramaphosa signed 2 proclamations allowing the SIU to probe allegations of corruption and maladministration at the university and the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. And one of the proclamations authorizes the SIU to focus on the alleged qualification scam, which included, amongst other transgressions, Ijeoma allegedly recruiting politicians and public servants for registration for postgraduate degrees in public management and administration without students going to undergraduate programs. SIU spokesperson Kaiser Khanyago confirmed that the investigation into Kivit, but added that the unit did not issue updates on ongoing investigations unless there were outcomes. Well, that's where we stand at the current moment. Don't you worry. We'll be back with some more moments in current affairs. It is 20 minutes now before 10 a.m. And of course, my name is Trusenz. This is Moment of Truth on Keeping SC Radio, where we focus on motivation, entertainment, spirituality, and current affairs. Good morning.
This is KNR Radio.